Do any of the sources actually address greatsword versus side sword? Or even short sword versus long sword specifically? Not really. You have Degrassi teaching this weapon, then describing that weapon as using the same principles and being ferocious in certain instances. You have Meyer teaching the longsword and then teaching the rapier. And there's only a few elements that are added to this weapon that aren't in that weapon. Or you have him teaching the short dusag slash messer and then saying it all applies to that. You have Silver using a sword like this and then saying, hey, that sword can be used the same way, and you can even use that with one hand, although he's talking about a long sword, and so on and so on. So what have we been able to deduce from just practical free play about fighting a weapon like that? Well, obviously, you have a reach advantage, you have a strength advantage. I have to be careful of the powerful sweeping blows of that weapon. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. I'm not going to be able to displace that. With this weapon, it's obviously quicker and agile. It has a more threatening point. If we bind up in any way, I want to quickly move it around and try and go for the hands. I have my hand free so that if we do engage, that hand is much quicker into play than you releasing your hand. If you release your hand, your weapon is less gangly than mine. Yeah, so, because this one is designed to do this. Additionally, and a lot of people don't realize, is that even though this is a short weapon, extend that with a thrust. Okay, you're missing me, and yet I'm cutting you. Yeah. You can do a pass at me, and I can pass back, and I'll still cut you. It's like, wait a minute, how can it be? Look at the length difference. It's because when you're doing this, as opposed to, wow, that's pretty good. Right. And this hand is free, right? So I can do that. And this is why by the 16th century, a war weapon like that, not being carried around the street, whereas this is. On the battlefield, this is pretty effective, particularly if I have a dagger, a buckler, or a pistol. And, whereas that, you're only going to be using that in the tight formations and things. And so, Degrassi makes that interesting comment about using that weapon in an urban environment and big sweeping motions that it can deflect multiple weapons and keep people back and away. I'm like, yeah, pretty much sure. Knowing what we know, how would we go about fighting with these dissimilar weapons, playing to the strength of each, and trying to exploit the weakness of each? Right? I like a guarded board because if seeing this, what's your thought? Okay, that. Okay, I'm expecting that. Right. So it's almost like I'm inviting it. Right. And when it comes in, I want my strong against that weak. Right? So strong against that weak, and as soon as I receive that contact, as soon as I got that contact, I'm not going to release and hit. I'm going to maintain that contact, even if it's just a subtle contact, and then try and make that thrust. Or make that thrust, make that contact, and as you try to bring it up and around, I go up again and again, stronger on a weaker, and I can go for a cut, or I can bring this hand into play. So that's what I'm after with that. Obviously, knowing that, you're going to be feinting or trying to knock the weapon up. Because that's weak. And difficult for me to bring that around with a killing blow. Certainly I tend to do a displacing blow. So being aware of that, I'm subtle. So that I'll do that before that weapon comes into play. And I'm going to, again, with my footwork, I'm going to be keeping a very nimble footwork. Much more nimble. Perhaps, arguably, more nimble than I would be with a two-handed weapon. Because I'm going to be trying to get in there like this, and I'm going to try and avoid that longer weapon. And I'm trying to thrust more. I don't have a lot of mass here. Okay, so let's see, what is this going to do? All right, well, so you're in an iron door, but I don't have the reach, right? I don't have as much of a menacing threat. If I throw this in, heck, this can ward off great swords and long swords. It's going to have no problem warding this off. So instead of this, I might give you this. And if you go for that, okay, then I go for this. But if you can manage to do it, do it with some force. Okay? It's hard for me, see that reach? Wow. It's hard for me to get this back into play before I take that in the face. So, alternatively, I could be over here. And are you ready to hit? No. No. All right. Okay. So, and as you come in, I'm going to have to do this. But anytime and as he comes in, I will have to do this. I don't like that. I like, as he comes in, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. I don't think we should ever be fighting from I have to do this point of view. Right. So, if I'm here, and I keep this agile, then even when you knock it aside, I can immediately come up with a blow to that hand. Because that's not a cut, and you didn't make a thrust. You knock this aside, and this comes into play in that case. Boom! One possibility. What else we got?
Would you say that you're attacking the hands and arms of this guy quite a bit?
Well, I think you do that with any weapon you're trying to. I mean, Manciolino says the hands are more vulnerable than any other target. It's the closest target. This has more defense on the hand than that does. Right. But I can't get to the hands on that any more than I could on any other weapon, I don't really think. But I can't get to here as easy as I could with a longsword, with a double-handed weapon. So in that sense, yes, I guess I'm going to pull my targets farther back. One of the things is, historically, they're not wearing masks. And here we have a weapon that's a cut and thrust weapon. And if you want to make that thrust in the face, how do they practice something that's going like this and make it safe? When they're saying don't stab scholars in the face. Scholars privilege, the idea of not stabbing to your partner's face. I mean, that makes it a deadly thrust, right? Let's go thrust and thrust here, okay? So, alright, if you make a thrust, again, I can try and set it aside, but even here, I'm feeling some substantial resistance, okay? But this can quickly try and get in there, and even if that happens, it's agile. Is that less agile? Because that can be very fast. I'm like, yes, it is less agile. It really is. If you know how to manipulate and wield this. But look at our stances, folks. And I'm leading with my right leg. But I can do both. And then I can be here, which is a position you're really not using with that one. And then we're here. Okay? And again, rather than being here, which I can be, I'm going to be here. So that I can. And then we have it here. Both of you. I'm in fluid position. Then here. And then this is not as useful here as it is for you. Actually, I'll be on the left side. And then this one, which again, not as useful for me as it is for you. This, not as useful for me as it is for you. Why? Well, if you go up to a hanging position, okay, it's pretty strong. Okay, not flat. You're going to aim your edge at me, but that means the flat will receive the blow. Okay. That's pretty good for you. But for me, that's not good. Alright? Now what I can't do is turn my arm this way. See, I'm fingering this. If I'm not fingering it, and my thumb's on the flat, I can turn my arm. So now I'll do that cut. Okay. I'm doing this, and that's strong. Okay? And that's okay. But I'm actually having to turn my forward edge behind me to do that. Ouch! And turn my hand this way. Whereas when we normally do a hanging, my hand is here. And this is much stronger than this. But this allows me to do it like this. And you can do both of those with that longsword. But so I can do that. Alright. it does work. That's pretty strong. And press all you want.
Yeah.
And that's pretty strong. So, what else? How about the tail guard? Okay. This just serves me no value. Right. This is nothing. This doesn't do me any good. Right. For you, that's a pretty powerful sweeping blow. But it's also one that I can pretty much count on coming. Right. Right. So when you throw it, you know, I can be here, immediately trap, hit, slice. Okay. Pull this one, and because this is a shorter weapon, it's easier for me to get into play to do things with. Any thoughts on?
It strikes me how much this is polearm-ish and longsword and both of those elements mixed together. How, you know, you're constantly looking to seek and keep that bind and use that short weapon and hit the point and play. You know, all those elements.
Sure. Lastly, if you notice, a lot of the times I'm in this position here, which is my foot's in this position without the back. Right. So it's already turned. And it's very stable for this weapon. And you see this in Baroque, so as he's standing there with his buckler or his dagger, it's actually like this. Right. It's like, wow. You see this in a couple other sources. And it's pretty interesting that, because I might have to push my foot back. Right. And it's pretty stable. It's actually stronger than if you're sitting here going up and down on this that knee like this. This is actually pretty strong. And it actually does allow me to do a very powerful traverse or bolt to turn, rather, to the outside. Right. And if I have to over here, it's very strong as well. So I really like that. And I came about that just naturally on my own, and then we see it in the sources later on. It's like, whoa! Right. So it's a lot more to think about. We could spend a